and welcome. I'm Janey Grace, and we're talking about the very tricky issue of addiction. And absolutely thrilled that my guest is Jo Rosa, who knows everything about this subject, knows a struggle after a lifetime of addiction to drugs. We're going to talk about that, alcohol, sugar, and food, and finally finding a way out, not just to sobriety, but to total freedom. Now, Jo, you run Quantum Sobriety, a whole range of things that can help people who are addicted, and we'll talk more about the things that you offer later. It's very exciting stuff, but let's just kind of preface all of that with a little bit about your story, because if I remember rightly, you were, what we might class as a functioning addict. You were never one of the people we would think of as rock bottom. You were a functioning addict. So tell us a bit about your story.
Yeah, I mean, it started off, I guess, with fun, going out and sort of partying and clubbing in my 20s or probably in my teens. And it started off doing things that everyone was doing, but I was always the one that took it a little bit further than everybody else. And everybody else started to calm down and settle down, and I just seemed to not be able to do that. And I kind of realised that I had a problem, and it started off with cigarettes and cocaine. They were the first kind of two addictions, and cigarettes, a bit difficult because everyone at the time was doing it. Everyone was smoking. There were many people that didn't want to stop smoking. So I was kind of doing something a bit different. The cocaine, I guess, is not so acceptable. So that was easier in a sense because it was something that you couldn't just do wherever you were.
Yeah.
I left England to get away from cocaine, and then I ended up somewhere where I found cocaine. So,
and you were a yoga teacher at this point, weren't you?
I wasn't.
So one would think of you as being super healthy when you started that.
Yeah. Well, the cocaine and the cigarettes was before the yoga.
Okay.
And then I escaped the UK and I got to Thailand to escape from that. And I found it there, or it found me, I don't know which. And I was actually there to train as a yoga teacher. So yes, I had two personas. I was Party Jo, and Party Jo was kind of who I'd always been, and then I was becoming Yoga Jo, who was who I was becoming, and the two were kind of like these two people within me, fighting, really, really fighting. And it became more and more difficult, basically, to survive that, because Party Jo was this, and Yoga Jo was that, and the two were really pulling me apart.
And you were drinking too, right? You were on alcohol as well.
I was drinking too, but the drink wasn't a problem until the cocaine had finished. So it was kind of the cocaine was, and the partying and the ecstasy and the hedonism of living in Thailand was really the big problem. And it was only when I left Thailand and I stopped the drugs completely and I came back to the UK, and then I actually swapped the drugs and the partying for alcohol. Yeah. So though I was drinking in Thailand, it wasn't the main substance that I was struggling with. It was the drugs and the partying was what I was really fighting. So the people that I knew through my yoga world didn't know about the party side, and the party people that knew that side of me didn't really approve of the healthy me, and thought that the healthy me was very boring. So it was a real struggle. It was a massive struggle, and it tore me apart to the point that I had to leave Thailand completely, sell my business, and then come back to the UK. But then I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the substance of the beast, the nature of the beast. And so, of course, I stopped the drugs and I started drinking.
Yeah. So
It
what
was.
was the catalyst for change then, and how did you go about stopping all of this? Because you certainly didn't do what some people would think of as a conventional route. Well, I'm guessing you didn't. I'm guessing you never went to the GP or considered 12-step programs or any of those things that people often think about when we talk about addiction.
Yeah, it just didn't resonate with me at all. It didn't. I knew, I felt so powerless to the substances, and I mean, over the time I've been addicted to so many things, so food and sugar and cigarettes and cocaine and partying, nicotine replacement therapy, so many different things. I kind of got that nature, and it was, I felt powerless to it. So the 12-step program didn't resonate with me because it was giving away my power to a higher power. And so again, I was being asked to give my power away, and it didn't resonate with me. So I was teaching yoga, and there was a lot of bad feeling. I felt it very taboo. I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody. I didn't feel like I could go to an AA meeting on where I was living, because people might know that I was a yoga teacher, and then there would be all of that those feelings there. So I felt very, very alone.
Yeah.
But also my yoga and my meditation was at the same time empowering me. So the more that I was throwing myself into that, the more empowered I felt. And then I gradually, it was like the struggle began to become less. And then I just let go of the addictions through empowering myself, taking my power back, and understanding what was going on, understanding through meditation who I was, ultimately taking off the plaster that was the drugs, and then I put on a different colour plaster, and that was the alcohol, taking that one off, and putting a different colour plaster on, which was sugar, and then pulling that one off, and so all of these different colour plasters, but actually I wasn't dealing with the wound that was underneath. And so I realised through meditation, sitting there and sitting there and sitting there and sitting there, and finding out and realising, who am I? And once I knew who I was, then I could transcend the addiction, and I didn't need anything else to be enough.
Yeah. Now, in terms of addiction, I mean, what is an addiction? You know, you've mentioned that it wasn't just the one thing. You then sort of replaced one addiction with another. How common is that? And is there such a thing then as an addictive personality, you know, as the expression goes? And how many people do you think are in that kind of position?
Well, I truly believe that my message at this time is to change the conversation around addiction. I do not believe that addicts are weak. I believe that addicts are strong. I believe that there are many, 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 many addicts out there that we wouldn't necessarily view as an addict. So, for example, a sports person, somebody who wins a gold medal, is addicted to their sport. They are so committed to training to the point that they are world class. Well, surely they're addicted to their sport. And likewise, a musician who practices for hours and hours and hours a day, well, are they addicted to their piece? Are they addicted to their you know, it's like I feel like there's a different conversation around different people. And an entrepreneur, to be really successful, an entrepreneur is addicted to work.
Yeah.
But we view these people, we view musicians and entrepreneurs and sports people, we view them as being positive. But I actually think that, well, what's the difference? So quantum sobriety, and what I've done and what I'm showing others to do, is to actually use your drive, and that drive that maybe an addictive personality has, use that drive to do something positive rather than doing something that's destroying you. And so that is the changing of the conversation to actually embracing who you are. So not not denying any part of you, because I did that for a long time. I denied that part of me. I tried not to have drive. I tried to be more boring. I tried to stay in and not drink and not party and not socialize and not talk to people. But actually, that's not who I am. I'm a very social person.
Yeah.
So I needed to find out, how could I be me, but in a positive way. So being a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher, and then running a program and having a retreat center, and all of the things that I now do, and there are many facets to what I do, all of those things are using who I am in a positive way, and I'm highly driven. So I'm using what used to be very negative and very destructive. I'm using that drive to be successful.
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting, you say you want to change the conversation around addiction. And, it seems, unless I'm mistaken, that at the moment, it's everywhere in the news. There's certainly been huge amounts of media recently about drinking, about issues with alcohol. We know that as a nation in the UK, alcohol costs us a fortune. I mean, not just physically buying it, individuals, but the NHS, for example, the lost hours in the workplace, and it goes on and on and on, not to mention relationships and everything else. And yet you've got these kind of this kind of confusion between the fact that alcohol is so ingrained in our culture. If you stop drinking, you're seen as the weird one. It's not like with smoking. If you give up smoking, people go, wow, well done you, that's fantastic. But if someone gives up drinking or says they're about to give up drinking, the feeling is, oh, you got a problem then? Oh dear, oh poor you got a problem. So I'm not even quite sure what the question is, but I'm just kind of interested in your view of where we are at as a nation with addiction. I mean, let's talk specifically alcohol for a moment. Where are we at, and what's wrong with our approach?
Well, I think if you go back 20 years with cigarettes, cigarette smoking, it was, everyone was doing it.
Yes.
So when I stopped smoking in 2006, and in 2006 there was a lot more people smoking. So I think the cigarette ban was around that time, or maybe a little bit before that. And I think before the cigarette ban in public places in the UK, there were a lot more people smoking, and so it was, when I stopped, it was much more difficult. Whereas now it's completely changed, and it's happened very, 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 very quickly. And I sense, and I don't know if it's just wishful thinking, but I sense that we're turning a corner with alcohol and with food, with sugar as well. We have a sugar tax in the UK, which is something that's relatively new. So I really do feel that there is movement here. There are more and more non-alcoholic drinks on the market, and every time I seem to sort of walk down the aisle of a supermarket, there seems to be new brands popping up all over the place. So I do feel that there's a shift. There is a shift. There's definitely a shift, but our social conditioning hasn't yet caught up with that. So I think there's a lot more forward-thinking people who are now speaking in a different way, and there are many more sober people, I believe, but we're still not talking about it. And that's what I want to encourage, and I'm happy about being a spokesperson for the movement and the revolution that is the sober movement. I've got my hand up, and I'm really, really happy to say that I used to have a problem, and I no longer have a problem. But I don't like the word recovery. I'm not in recovery. I am recovered.
Yes. And that's an important distinction, isn't it? And while we're on words, you also don't use the word alcoholic.
No.
So is there such thing as an alcoholic?
Well, it's another crazy one rule for one substance and another rule for another substance. So if you take smoking, then you are a smoker.
Yeah.
You then become an ex-smoker, and somewhere along the line you become a non-smoker.
Yeah.
So we're saying, well, I used to be, but I'm not anymore. And I even now class myself as a non-smoker, and others would perceive me to be a non-smoker. Yet we have a totally different conversation around alcohol, whereas people who have not had a drink for 20, 30, 40, 50 years still call themselves an alcoholic. Now, if you haven't had a drink in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, you're not an alcoholic. It's like saying, well, I had a broken bone 50 years ago, so I've still got a broken bone. Well, you haven't.
Yeah.
You're recovered. I'm not in recovery. I'm recovered. I don't think about it. I can be surrounded with people drinking. I can go to a pub. I can have a meal. I'm more than happy going to a pub and socialising and being around people who are drinking. And I'm not thinking, oh, I wish that I could have a drink, poor me. I'm thinking, oh, you guys are drinking and you're drinking that poison, poor you.
Yes. Yeah, it's a really important distinction, I think. And so do you think that there are, do you think that people who want to give up drinking then, I mean, I suppose my question is, you make it sound very simple, of course, but of course the reality is it isn't that simple, because it is an addiction. The substance is addictive, right, is what we're saying. It's not that one necessarily has a disease, but the substance is addictive. And so what that's done is it's set up all sorts of patterns and habits within your brain. So actually, it can be very, very difficult. However much you choose, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm not going to drink. Bizarrely, you can often find you've ordered the drink before you've even had time to engage your brain, as it were, because it's a habit. It's something we do all the time. So how do people start initially to kind of get over those initial random thoughts and cravings and triggers? Because there'll be many people watching who think, well, it's all right for Jo, she was able to just meditate, but it's not the same for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the behavior is as addictive as the substance, if not more addictive than the substance. So there is a reason that we have a need and a desire to self-harm. With alcohol, we are anesthetizing ourselves from something. There's something that we don't want to feel, so we are numbing out from that. So initially, alongside the meditation, we need to have some kind of one-to-one therapy to have a look at when we pull this plaster of alcohol off and we reveal what it is underneath that is really driving the desire to numb out and anesthetize ourselves from. We need to have some kind of tools to look at that and to heal that. Now meditation is going to help us to rip off the plaster. It's going to help us the meditations that I've created are specifically for this. They are designed to go through this whole process with the participant, and then there's some kind of therapy, because often sometimes there isn't. Sometimes it's just the habit, as I explained before, right at the beginning of this. My addictions began as fun, as partying, as doing what everyone was doing. But because I do have this great drive and addictive personality, you can call it that. But yeah, maybe I do have an addictive personality, but maybe it is just a great drive for life. Then you need to be able to have some kind of direction as to how do I change that direction? How do I go from this path, which is destroying me, to another path? And some people only need the meditations. I have clients that literally just do the meditations. They follow the course, they do the meditations, they have the community, and community is massively important to the opposite of addiction is connection. It's not actually sobriety, it's connection. And the Rat Park experiments, I'm a big fan of that, where the rats were given the cocaine water. So the original experiments, in the 70s, there were two lots. There were two rats, and for anyone that doesn't know about this, it's really interesting. The one rat was given cocaine water, and one rat was given normal water. And the experiment was, well, the rat keeps going to the cocaine, and it's choosing the cocaine. It's got maybe it's one rat, and they're choosing the cocaine water over the water. But then more recently, it was like, well, okay, well, let's put some more variables into this and see what else is happening. And so what they put in was a whole community. So these rats they had a park to go to, and they had other rats to play with, and there was sex that they could have with the opposite sex rats, and there was so many different things that they could do within this rat park. And they didn't go, and they didn't choose the cocaine water, because they had the connection, and they had what they needed. Their needs were met, and so they didn't need to have a substance to boost them up. And so that's a very interesting experiment that was done more recently. And so having a community and having people that understand you, that have been there, and surrounding yourself with people who are already where you wish to be is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, your the work that you do is called Quantum Sobriety. You're also an author of a book of the same name. What does that mean? What is quantum sobriety?
So quantum, I got really interested in quantum physics and about 10, 12 years ago, and just the potentiality that is out there. And so I learned a lot about quantum jumping into different realities, and basically choosing the reality where we want to be. So the tagline of quantum sobriety is choose the reality where you've never been addicted. And so I give a training on this, and it's, we can basically choose anything. Everything is there for the taking. So we can choose to stay stuck. We can choose for this path to get sober to be difficult, or we can choose for it to be easy. So quantum sobriety is based upon that everything is available, that there is pure potentiality out there, that anything and everything is possible. And then to use the meditation to really connect with that, and to retrain the brain, to unlearn the conditioned belief that society has taught us. And we are ultimately a product of our environment. And so until we kind of understand this and know this, we are a product of what society has taught us.
Yeah.
And until we start to question, is that true? And that, of course, is where the meditation comes in. You sit there and you say, is this true? Do I believe this? Does my heart really, truly believe this to be true? Do I really believe that I've got a disease? And for me, when I asked that question, and I sat in meditation, in deep reflection, and I asked that question, I didn't have a disease. I knew that I didn't have a disease. So you have to start asking questions of society. And so then you begin to unlearn everything that you've learned, everything that you've been taught by society. You unlearn it first, and then you start to relearn. And then, of course, this is what's happening with the brain and with the neural networks, is that you are a product of your environment. Your brain is set to a certain frequency, to you have thoughts and you have beliefs, and that is where you are in that moment. But you can unlearn. And so as we begin to unlearn, the networks, the neural pathways begin to change. They break away from each other. And then as we begin to learn something new, they move off, and they then form new relationships, new habits, and we become someone different. Like we are literally somebody different. So quantum sobriety is basically it's the meditation, it's the unlearning of what we've been taught.
And what about if you're a beginner, if you like? So there might be people thinking, well, I really need this kind of program, but I I don't know how to meditate. It's not my thing. I haven't done it before, or I've tried to do it. I mean, I do shows with for Hay House Radio, and we have a lot of callers who will say, I've heard about meditation. I've heard lots of authors talk about the importance of it, but I just can't do it. I can't sit still. I can't clear my mind. There are all these myths around meditation. So how would you describe the way you work, and whether it's relevant for somebody, even if they're a meditation novice, if you like?
Well, we call our meditation, we call it our practice. It's a meditation practice. And so we have to practice. So we have to do it over and over and over again. Nobody starts meditation being able to do it. It's not, our minds are not like that. We have been trained to be competitive from school age. We've been trained to think and do and be busy. And so we naturally are not able to meditate. So nobody can meditate in the beginning.
Right.
So whoever is, and as a meditation teacher, it is probably one of the questions that I'm asked the most. I can't meditate because I've tried it and I can't get my mind to be still. Well, you're doing it right, and that is completely normal, and that is the case for everybody. So please don't let that be discouraging, because it's completely normal. You have to practice it. Practice means you have to practice. And you, in the beginning, you find recordings that really resonate with you. I mean, obviously I have recordings for the Quantum Sobriety program, which are specific to addiction, but then there's so much material out there. What I say to my clients is, do my meditations once a day, and then maybe find something else, find another teacher, another voice that you resonate with, and then do a different meditation as well during the day, or maybe even doing a silent meditation where you're just for 5 minutes, where you're reflecting on your day, perhaps at the end of the day, doing gratitude practice at the end of the day, and just thinking about all the things that you're grateful for. There's so many different types of meditation. You could do a walking meditation. You could do, my husband does the lawn mowing, and as he's mowing, that's his... He's
very welcome to come and do that at mine. If he wants some more meditation time.
Yeah, that's he does a more active meditation,
sure.
Whereas I like to sit, and my meditation is very much about what you would classically call a meditation.
Yeah.
But it's very important to find what works for you, and we're all different and we're all unique, and we all need to find what works for us, and also building it up in small increments of time as well is another tip. So to do 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, and then what you'll naturally find is that 5 minutes is now 10 minutes, and then it's 15 minutes, and using a timer on your phone. We're blessed with apps these days, and so it's so easy to do this, to find free content, and to find a teacher that whose voice, some voices are very annoying and some voices are very soothing, but everybody is different. So you have to find what works for you, but you have to make a commitment, number one, and you have to be consistent.
Yeah. So for anyone who's thinking of they know it's time, they've reached that point where they know it's time to crack their addiction or many addictions. There are lots of opportunities, the Go Sober months of the year, where people can start challenges, if you like, take a 28-day challenge, go sober for a certain month. Is that an approach that you think is good? Is that a good start? Or would you say, if anything, you might be setting yourself up to fail because you're just looking forward to drinking or whatever it is again at the end of that month?
I think that can be a real danger for these months that are set up for January is a classic when people are stopping drinking, and then they're talking over social media about, oh my god, it's the end of the month, I can't wait to have a drink. And then you've got February, you've got all of these people with these horrific headaches and hangovers where their bodies have got so clean, and then they've just decimated themselves.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's also, because it's such a taboo subject, it's also a really good time for the person that really feels that they've got a problem and they want to tackle it. It can be the perfect time, because there are other people. They can say, oh, well, I'm just not drinking for this month. And obviously the first month is the most difficult month for that fledgling sober person. It's the most difficult month. So to actually ride on a national campaign,
Yeah, the culture. Yeah,
it can actually be very helpful.
Sure.
And then you've got through that first difficult month, and then you're at a much stronger place, a much stronger position at the end of that month to then begin your second month. So it's a very positive time. But addict, you can't force someone. The addict knows when it's the right time.
Yeah.
And I've written about this time and time and time again. You cannot force someone. And I like to speak to people before they come on our residential retreat to make sure that they are ready to do the residential retreat, because many people are kind of forced into it because their families are forcing them into rehab. It's not going to work because they're not ready. They're doing it for their family. They're not doing it for themselves.
Yeah.
Only the addict knows when they're ready.
Yeah.
But yes, it can be a really good time of year for people to ride on a national campaign.
Sure. So you've mentioned the residential retreats that you run. You have the book, Quantum Sobriety, as well. And you have an online program where people can get support. So just give us the website then, Jo, where we can find all of this stuff about you and people can connect with whichever part of your work they feel is right for them at the moment.
Yeah, it's quantumsobriety.com, pure and simple. Let's make it nice and easy.
Excellent.
Quantumsobriety.com. And what we've tried to do is to create the program on many different levels so that you can do it at arm's length, which is the book. The book is very inexpensive. You can read the book. There's no real major commitment. You can see if the words resonate with you, if the technique resonates with you, if it feels like something that you would like to take further. And then the online program is the next step that you can take, and it's a global community that we have. So it doesn't matter where in the world you are, as long as you speak English and you have internet access, because the meditations are sent to you digitally, and it's an online community, then you can do this anywhere in the world. And so it's still at arm's length. But there's more connection. There's more connection with the community, and that's really beautiful. We have one-day workshops, which are 3 times a year, which are in the UK in Lavenham, and then we have monthly residential retreats, which are Monday to Friday. And people say, well, how could 5 days? How can it? Why is it only 5 days? Most other programs are 28 days, and actually all we need is 5 days with you.
Amazing. Jo, we really appreciate you being a guest, and I think your mission to, as you say, change that conversation around addiction is so important. And let's hope that we would be able to do this interview, a similar interview, in a year's time, and the change would have been massive, and then that would be great. Jo, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank